This video is sponsored by, actually, let's just get into it. So, you know how sometimes you're just vibing. Everything's going pretty well, and then one thing happens and suddenly everything is on fire and you don't even know how you got there? Well, that's basically World War I. Except instead of your life falling apart, it was the entire world. And instead of one thing, it was actually like a lot of things. But we'll get to that. This is Europe in 1914. And boy oh boy, is everyone just waiting for an excuse to fight each other. Let's meet our players. Over here, we've got Britain, running the biggest empire the world has ever seen and feeling pretty good about it. They've got a massive navy, colonies everywhere, and a deep, deep paranoia about anyone else getting too powerful. Next to them is France, who's still mad about losing a war to Germany 40 years ago and really wants some revenge. They've also got a fancy new alliance with Russia because, you know, enemy of my enemy and all that. Speaking of Germany, these guys just became a unified country in 1871, and they are speedrunning imperialism. They've got a powerful army, a growing navy, and their leader, Kaiser Wilhelm II, who really wants everyone to respect Germany as much as Britain, which is giving Britain anxiety. Down here is Austria-Hungary, which isn't so much a country as it is several different ethnic groups held together by duct tape, prayers, and one very old emperor named Franz Joseph. And they are stressed about all the nationalism happening in the Balkans. Over in the east, there's Russia, massive, populous, and autocratic. They've got the biggest army on paper, but it's poorly equipped and poorly trained. They're also dealing with internal problems. A lot of internal problems. Like, we're going to have a revolution soon levels of problems. And finally, there's the Ottoman Empire, which used to control huge amounts of territory, but is now called the sick man of Europe because it's falling apart. Rude, but kinda accurate. Oh, and there's also Italy, but they're going to switch sides halfway through, so we'll get to them later. Now, all these countries have been forming alliances like they're collecting Pokemon cards. You've got the Triple Entente, Britain, France, and Russia, and the Triple Alliance, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. The idea is that if you mess with one, you mess with all of them, which should prevent war, right? Wrong. It just meant that when war did break out, everyone had to join in. Great plan, guys. But why was everyone so ready to fight? Well, there's this fun cocktail of reasons. Militarism. Everyone's building up their armies and navies like they're preparing for the apocalypse. Alliances. As we mentioned, everyone's promised to back everyone else up. Imperialism. Everyone wants more colonies and resources and is getting increasingly competitive about it. Nationalism. Everyone thinks their country is the best and is willing to fight about it. Historians call this MAIN, which is a helpful acronym, but also, it means everything is a ticking time bomb. So into this very stable and not at all tense situation comes Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary. Franz Ferdinand is the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and in June 1914, he decides to visit Sarajevo in Bosnia, which Austria-Hungary controls, but is full of Serbs who would very much like to not be controlled by Austria-Hungary. This is not a great idea. On June 28th, Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie are driving through Sarajevo in an open-top car because apparently security isn't a thing yet. Waiting for him is a group of young Bosnian Serb nationalists who are part of a group called the Black Hand. Their plan? Assassinate the Archduke. The first guy chickens out. The second guy throws a grenade, but it bounces off the car and explodes under the next car, injuring a bunch of people, but missing Franz Ferdinand entirely. So Franz Ferdinand is like, well, that was terrifying. Let's go visit the people who got injured. But nobody tells the driver about the change of plans. So the driver takes a wrong turn, someone realizes the mistake, and the driver stops the car to reverse. Right in front of one of the assassins. A guy named Gavrilo Princip, who cannot believe his luck. Princip pulls out a pistol and shoots Franz Ferdinand and Sophie at point-blank range. Both of them die. And this is the spark that lights the fuse. Austria-Hungary is furious and immediately blames Serbia, even though Serbia's government probably wasn't directly involved. But Austria-Hungary sees this as the perfect excuse to put Serbia in its place. There's just one problem. Russia is protective of Serbia because they're both Slavic nations. So if Austria-Hungary attacks Serbia, Russia's probably going to step in. But Austria-Hungary has an ally, Germany, who tells them, hey, we've got your back, do what you gotta do. This is called the blank check, and it's going to age poorly. So on July 28th, exactly 1 month after the assassination, Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. Russia mobilizes its army to defend Serbia. Germany sees Russia mobilizing and declares war on Russia. France is allied with Russia, so Germany declares war on France too. Germany's plan to fight France is called the Schlieffen Plan, which involves going through Belgium to avoid France's border fortifications. There's just one small problem. Belgium is neutral, and Britain guaranteed Belgium's neutrality. So when Germany invades Belgium on August 4th, Britain declares war on Germany. And just like that, a regional conflict in the Balkans has become a world war. Everyone thinks this war is going to be over by Christmas. Spoiler alert, it is not. Germany's Schlieffen Plan initially works pretty well. They push through Belgium and into France, getting within 30 miles of Paris. The French government is like, well, this is fine, and prepares to evacuate. But then the French and British forces make a stand at the Battle of the Marne in September 1914, and they manage to push the Germans back. This is a huge deal because it means Germany's quick victory plan has failed. Now what? Well, both sides try to outflank each other in what's called the race to the sea, but they just end up creating a continuous line of trenches from the Swiss border all the way to the English Channel. And thus begins the Western Front, 400 miles of trenches, barbed wire, and misery that's going to define this war. Let me tell you about trench warfare, because it is awful. Soldiers live in muddy trenches full of rats, lice, and disease. There's a condition called trench foot, where your feet literally start rotting because they're constantly wet. Fun. Between the opposing trenches is no man's land, a wasteland of barbed wire, shell craters, and dead bodies. The military strategy is basically blow up the enemy trenches with artillery, then send your soldiers running across no man's land to capture the enemy position. The problem? Machine guns. Turns out, when you have soldiers running in a straight line toward entrenched machine gun positions, a lot of them die. And when they capture the enemy trench, the enemy just retreats to their next line of trenches, and the whole thing starts over. Battles last for months and result in hundreds of thousands of casualties just to gain a few miles of territory. In 1916, the Battle of the Somme results in over 1 million casualties. 1 million. On the first day alone, the British suffer 60,000 casualties, with 20,000 dead. That's the worst single day in British military history. And what do they gain? A few miles of muddy ground. This is not going well. Meanwhile, on the Eastern Front, things are more mobile but equally terrible. Russia is fighting Germany and Austria-Hungary, and initially, they do okay. They invade East Prussia and Galicia. But then Germany sends Paul von Hindenburg and Erich Ludendorff, who absolutely destroy the Russian army at the Battle of Tannenberg. Russia loses 170,000 men. Germany loses about 20,000. Oof. The problem is that Russia has millions of soldiers, but not enough rifles, ammunition, or food. Sometimes soldiers are sent into battle without weapons and told to pick up rifles from the dead guys. This is not a great strategy. By 1917, Russia has lost millions of soldiers, the economy is collapsing, and people are starving. The Russian people are like, you know what? Maybe this whole autocracy thing isn't working out. Two big things happen in 1917 that change everything. First, Russia has a revolution. Actually, two revolutions. In March, Tsar Nicholas II is overthrown and a provisional government takes over. Then in November, the Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin, overthrow that government and take power. The Bolsheviks want out of the war immediately, so they sign a peace treaty with Germany in March 1918. This is bad news for the Allies because now Germany can move all its forces from the Eastern Front to the Western Front. But then, and this is the big one, the United States enters the war. So why does America join? Well, the US has been officially neutral, but they've been selling supplies to Britain and France the whole time because, money. Germany, reasonably, is like, hey, stop helping our enemies, and declares unrestricted submarine warfare, meaning they're going to sink any ship going to Britain, including American ones. Then British intelligence intercepts a telegram from Germany to Mexico, the Zimmermann telegram, proposing that if Mexico joins the war on Germany's side, Germany will help Mexico get back Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. Americans are not happy about this. So on April 6, 1917, the United States declares war on Germany. Now, American troops don't arrive in huge numbers until 1918, but the psychological impact is massive. The Allies now have access to America's enormous industrial capacity and millions of fresh soldiers. Germany knows they need to win before the Americans fully mobilize. In spring 1918, Germany launches the Spring Offensive, a massive all-or-nothing attack on the Western Front. Initially, it works. They gain more ground than anyone has in years. But they can't sustain it. They're running out of supplies, men, and morale. By summer, the Allies, now reinforced by American troops, launch their own offensive, the 100 Days Offensive. And Germany starts collapsing. On the home front, people are starving because of the British naval blockade. There are mutinies in the navy and strikes in the cities. Austria-Hungary falls apart as different ethnic groups declare independence. The Ottoman Empire signs an armistice. Germany's allies are gone. Their army is retreating. The Kaiser abdicates and flees to the Netherlands. On November 11, 1918, at 11 a.m., Germany signs an armistice. The war is over. So what did this war cost? Approximately 20 million people dead, soldiers and civilians. 21 million wounded. Entire empires collapsed. The German, Austro-Hungarian, Russian, and Ottoman empires all ceased to exist. The map of Europe is completely redrawn. And in 1919, the winners meet at Versailles to decide what to do with Germany. The Treaty of Versailles forces Germany to accept full blame for the war, pay massive reparations, give up all its colonies, severely limit its military. France wants to make sure Germany can never threaten them again. Germany thinks this is incredibly unfair, and a lot of Germans feel humiliated and angry. This anger is going to have consequences. Big consequences. Like World War II consequences. But that's a story for another time. So that's World War I, the war that was supposed to end all wars. It didn't. It was caused by a complex web of alliances, imperial rivalries, and nationalism, triggered by one assassination, and resulted in unprecedented destruction. It introduced the world to modern warfare, machine guns, tanks, airplanes, chemical weapons, and industrial-scale killing. It destroyed empires, redrew maps, and set the stage for conflicts that would dominate the rest of the 20th century. All because Europe's leaders looked at their web of alliances and thought, yeah, this will definitely prevent war. There's a lesson in there somewhere. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you learned something, hit that like button. If you want more history content that definitely oversimplifies incredibly complex events, subscribe. And remember, don't start world wars. Good advice.